And we're live.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Committee on Finance, Tuesday, the 8th of September, 2020. Councilmember Wyatt.
Here.
Councilmember Bowman.
Here.
Councilmember Nowakowski.
Here.
Councilmember Rivera.
Present.
Councilmember Wingo.
Present.
Quorum is present.
All righty. Before we get started, I just wanted to take an item out of order from the table. It is, which one? Item number 33. Can we take that from the table?
Motion is to take item number 33 from the table.
Seconded by Councilmember Bowman. Just want to restate.
Item 33, City Financial Status Update.
Yes, thank you. Seconded by Councilmember Bowman. Just wanted to update. I think Majority Leader, you're on the line. I think Council President said he would not be able to be here. He had to run to an event this morning. But we've been waiting for updates from the city. We haven't got them regularly. I believe Councilmember Rivera, Majority Leader, you said that we may have had one since we put forth the resolution, and that's insufficient. We have a cash flow report from July, doesn't help us today. We have some pending issues that we have to know clearly what's going on before the end of the month to make some decisions, and we haven't got that. So I'm hopeful, again, extending out to the administration to begin having those conversations that we should have been having all throughout the summer. We need that information. This Finance Committee needs that information. It should not be where we have to find out from the news media what's going on in our city, and we're elected officials. We are co-equal branch of government, and to date, we have gotten zero information. We've gotten late information, no information, and right now, as we speak, we still have no information. So we're going to move forward on this agenda, but understand that there's going to be some hesitancy in making decisions when we don't know what's going on with our city. We have to make some serious decisions in the next coming weeks. We should have been making them over the last several weeks, but we haven't. But I cannot sit as a finance chair of the second largest city in the state without information on how we move forward. It's disrespectful to the council, and it's disrespectful to our residents when we are here elected by them to make decisions on their behalf for services and other things. So with that being said, we're going to move forward with this agenda from the top.
Item number 1, 5-year capital debt plan, 2021 to 2025.
Motion is to open.
Okay, this item is open, and I believe we have the controller's office here to speak on that.
Yes, we spoke on this item during caucus, so there's not too much more information that we have. I know in regards to the 5-year capital plan that the controller put out, the 32 million altogether is we'll be looking to go to market for in April. And I know Councilmember Wyatt, you questioned the city borrowing $32 million during these financial times. But this is something that we do annually. In order for the city to fund infrastructure costs, you have to borrow and go to market. This money isn't due. It's normally like between 10 to 15 years before the principal amount is even due. The city just has to make sure they pay the interest each year on its borrowing. But one of the main things is that in order for us to do street repairs, the sidewalks, pavements, to give money to cultural centers, something I know the CPC, along with the administration and the Common Council, is working on projects to fund for this upcoming year. This money is needed.
Questions from colleagues? Any questions? Okay. I still question the amount that you're looking at borrowing over the past. Ms. Estridge?
Mr. Chair, while she unmutes you, we're also trying to be signaled by Mr. Nowakowski.
Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Estrich?
The
Commissioner?
controller's plan is just that, a plan. We have to remember that we're not committed to borrowing everything that's on that list. So the CPC is starting, we're trying to look at everything and see what is important and what needs to be done. I mean, there's, as the controller's office spoke, there are things that need to be done, like our streets and street lights, and there's things that have to be repaired. But that's not necessarily the full amount that we're going to spend.
Okay. Councilmember Noakowski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question. What is the totality of the amount that we're borrowing?
Well, as Commissioner Estridge just said, the comptroller, she said a cap at 32 million for this 2020-2021 fiscal year. We definitely won't exceed 32 million. And we know as far as that 32 million, 12 million is from last year projects that were approved that were never funded. And then the comptroller allow an additional 20 million for this upcoming year. We've reduced our fire capital plan from last year to this year based off the financial situation of the city along with surrounding areas, not just the city of Buffalo. But right now, technically for new projects, the cap is not to exceed $20 million.
And just one other quick question is when there is an excess of funds, what happens to that when we don't utilize all of our funds?
You just don't use it. I mean, we set an amount each year where we cap at for capital projects. If you come under 20, that's great. Then that's less money the city have to borrow. The key is not to exceed the authorized amount by the comptroller based off our cash and debt team fires, them reconciling with them, looking what's the best way for the city or what's the maximum amount the city can borrow to be in a good financial position.
Thank you.
Okay. And please state your name for the record. Who had their hand up? Someone had their hand up. Well, let me go to Councilmember Bowman, then I'll come to the controller's office again.
I think this question would be more directed to Commissioner Estridge. Commissioner, I just noticed in the comptroller's reports that they mentioned the biannual reporting wasn't being done. Is that something due to COVID? The numbers are hard to compile or get, or is that something we can expect in the near future?
We are going to present that in the near future and what the status of each of the projects are.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Controller's office.
Yes, Greg Samansky, the investment debt officer. As Mr. Dowell said, we have reduced the 5-year plan by $16 million over the next 4 years. In the 5th year, principal payment for the debt drops by about $9 million. So we have taken steps to kind of mitigate that initial $25 million borrowing that's currently out there. And I think, you know, if there's a need for future deficit borrowings, I'm sure we would look at reducing these numbers even more going forward.
It just, to me, it's just a little bit unsettling that we're in the midst of a pandemic and having some financial struggles, and we're looking to borrow more than we've ever borrowed since I've been on council, $32 million. I've not seen that type of number in our capital expenditures. So for right now, it just seems like it just doesn't make a lot of sense to be borrowing more than what we even know that we can actually pay. And I understand, Greg, the interest payments, absolutely. But again, we are in uncharted waters and we're going deeper into that, borrowing more than what we would have normally borrowed.
I mean, I think I understand, you know, the hesitancy, and I think, as also Commissioner Estridge said, that going forward, like as we move into the fall, early winter, these numbers can certainly be adjusted in the budget, in the capital budget. That would.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dow?
Okay.
Okay, motion to table.
Motion is to table.
seconded by Councilmember Noakowski. Next item, number 2.
Item number 2, interfund loan request, 3256 Walden Avenue.
Motion is to open.
This item is open. Who's going to speak on it?
Delano Dow, Comptroller's Office. This is just a grant that the city receives. And before we can get the work started, we have to put up XYZ number of dollars. So we're looking to transfer over $100,000, I believe, to cover the initial expenses, and then we'll get reimbursed by the grant once we incur costs. Basically, it looked like pavement, street and sidewalk for pavement on the streets that's listed.
Okay. And I know that with the interfund loans, we're supposed to pay that back within the year. I know from the previous audit, that wasn't being done. In 2019, the audit said that those interfund transfers weren't happening. Where are we with the interfund transfers right now? Do we have a report or something that we can refer to?
We do have, our accounting group do keep record of all the interfund loan advances that we supply to various departments. We do follow up with the individual departments to check the status of the repayment. That report we can submit to council to let you guys know where we're at year to date in regards to interfund loan requests.
Do you have any, can you give us anything, estimate where we are with that right now? And are we on target or are we behind? Where are we with the interfund transfers reimbursement?
At the top of my head, no, but I can have a report and follow with you guys Thursday.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, motion to approve.
Motion is to approve.
Seconded by Councilmember Wingo.
Item number 3, July 2020 cash flow report.
Motion is to open this item.
This item is open.
Also, as stated during caucus, I mean, we had some bullet points. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the cash flow report, but basically, I think we had a cash balance at the end of July around 73 million. I believe we brought in cash around 71 million. We spent 54 million. And like we said, this report just to let you guys know the cash receipts and disbursements throughout the month. I'll let you know where the city of Buffalo is at. We will, Greg and his team did put this cash flow report together. We do have like actual numbers for July, but we projected out from July 2020 all the way through June 21. We know our projections may change throughout the year as more data becomes available to us. But right now, we just have the true data we just have for the month of July. And like we stated before, you guys can take a look at when you itemize it out as far as where the true cash coming in. I think the bulk of the cash that came in for the month of July was from property taxes. In regards to disbursements, a lot comes out, as everyone is aware, is payrolls, payroll and benefit costs for retired and active employees. But this is something that we submit every month. We will continue to submit it, and then we'll have bullets. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Colleagues, any questions? Any questions? I have a bunch of questions, actually. Is there any way you all can get us more current information? This information is from July. We're now in September. It helps us not at all. There's got to be something that you can give us. It may not be official, but it should be something with our financial situation. We can't work with something from 60 days ago.
Delano Dow, Comptroller's Office. It takes time to generate these reports. It's a full month's worth of data. So even when you look at the month of August, we just closed August out a week and a half ago. It takes time to get all the data up to make sure we have true, accurate numbers. You can't generate a cash flow report based off a budget that the city have within a week or two. And then we don't want to put data out for any individual to question the data that our group is putting out. So we're going to do checks and balances and make sure we're putting out good numbers.
So we're not going to get another.
By the 15th of each month, we file this cash flow report, barring anything coming up where it might delay us. So right now, we just closed out August. Today is the 9th of September. So by the 15th of September, you should have August report. So then you have 2 months of true data that you can look at and verify to see where the city is at. But then also, you said about the city finances, we do have Open Book Buffalo where you can look to see what the revenues and expenditures are for the city within a week's time, as far as the prior week. So that data is out there.
So you're telling me that there's no way that we can get any type of pre-report information with this technology today? You're telling me that we have to wait till September 15th to get any type of information?
You want a full month's worth of data. We close the month out on the last day of the month. We have to gather the information before we can get it to you.
You're telling me you have no sense of anything else going on until the 15th of the month?
We're just talking about cash right now. But like I said, you can go to Open Book Buffalo on Comptroller's website, and you can view the city's financial situation. That's daily. You can pull it up right now. This is just talking about the city's cash coming in and coming out. But that information is available. But we're willing to sit down with you or anybody else on this call, and we can see what we can get together, work with the administration for us to get whatever information that you're requesting right now.
So for the sales tax revenue, we had about 4,000 actual in July, and we're projecting for August and September to be back to regular amounts of revenue, which is like 6 million. Is that accurate?
No, the sales tax should be 4 million.
Okay, for July it was 4 million, but for
Correct.
July you're projecting 6 million.
Right. We hoping based off businesses opening up, you can see the city is opening up. Hopefully the sales tax, more people purchasing. Hopefully we do take on more, bring in more sales tax. But the thing is just a projection based off what we know at the time.
I understand it's just projection, but if you're just looking at a projection, in July you have $4 million, and in August you're saying $6 million. So what are we looking at? You're telling me it's a projection. Is a projection based on what?
It's based off past data. Oh, I'm sorry, Greg. Greg, go ahead.
So in the August, that is the actual number, because I knew the number when I would put this out there. So sometime in the current month, I'll look at some of the current receipts, and I'll use that in the current month. And then the other months, I use historical data, or we're not going to use historical data here. We're going to kind of use the current environment. That's why this document is going to be really fluid moving forward. And as the year goes on, we'll see is the sales tax ticking up. Like, we might need to adjust up or down depending on, whether businesses are, whether we go into a lockdown or anything like that going forward. Based on sales tax, I mean, we know that the state is kind of is reduced the state aid, so that number was budgeted initially, and I'm sure the Board of Ed's cash is going to be affected moving forward by some of the state aid cuts too. So we kind of plug in the actual numbers for that month. Once that actual is done, you're kind of just looking at the projection moving forward and see where you're going to have difficulties.
Okay. And Greg, I'm okay. So I see your numbers going forward, but I know a lot of the restaurants have been able to have outdoor dining. But as we go into the colder months, I'm concerned about that number. So I don't really see that number being adjusted dramatically, because I'm thinking that's a big help right now. But going into the colder months, it might not be as helpful. Do you see that as a problem?
We'll definitely look and see where it's trending, and kind of plug in new numbers, and I'm definitely on the conservative side. I am not going to put in a number, because I don't want some number higher on the revenue, on the receipt side, and that for it not to come in. That's, I'd rather be on the conservative side and plug in conservative numbers moving forward. And if they come in higher, great, then we'll have more cash to start the month with.
Okay. I know that regarding the fines, the council put forth a resolution to address the fines. And I see that it doesn't seem like that number has been, in the month of July, the number was pretty minimal, but going forward, it seems like that number is kind of trending higher. Are you taking that into consideration? The resolution that we put forth, the council put forth regarding fines?
Yeah, I definitely some of the outstanding issues. And then, I think sales tax, based on that first August, looks like it's coming higher than I expected, but some of those other things might take a little while to start generating some receipts, because July was really the first month that things really kind of opened up again.
So with I'm sorry, we're bouncing all around. So you're expecting, is that number for the tax levy in August, is that a good number, the 17 million?
I kind of looked at what we received, for the first half of August, so then I kind of the rest of the month. But, obviously it's weighted heavily toward the beginning of August because, that's when the receipts are really are due in July, and then it kind of and then it'll kind of tail off toward the end of the month and moving.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, colleagues? Councilmember Bowman?
More of just a statement to Councilmember Wyatt's point, and Delano mentioned potentially working with us. I think what we're looking for and getting at is just trying to have the information to know the trends and how things are moving along. I understand it takes a couple of weeks to compile the numbers, but more of what you're seeing once the numbers are starting to come in, a heads up of where we can go. So I'd be interested in working on some kind of report where we could, just kind of have a heads up on top of the other reports we receive. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, motion to table.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion is to table.
Seconded by Councilmember Noakowski.
Item number 4, approve adjusted base proportions 2020.
This item is open.
This item is open, and we have Commissioner Shell on. Hey, Commissioner.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm well.
So can you explain to us what these two, well, we have two documents, but the one that you were on right now, can you explain what we're doing here?
So it's probably more appropriate to address item number 5 first, which sets up item number 4.
Okay.
Essentially, every year we file our final assessment roll. It's a makeup of the classes of all the properties in the city of Buffalo. In the city of Buffalo, we exercise the homestead, non-homestead class system, which means homestead is 1, 2, 3 units, residential types. Non-homestead would be anything else, typically commercial properties. And what it does is when we file that roll, New York.
You're on mute. You went back to mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm on my phone and people are calling me. Where did I lose you?
You were talking about the different classes and.
Okay, so essentially you have homestead, non-homestead. We file our final assessment roll from New York State. They in turn come back and say, here's your percentages. And what it is it's what percentage of each class makes up the assessment roll, which sets up how much they're going to be responsible for the levy. The levy obviously is what we use to, establish how much needs to be raised by tax money. And so in this case, the base proportion is set by a ratio. It's capped. We plug the numbers in, and in this year it comes out 49 and 51, basically the percentages, 51% being non-homestead, 49 being the homestead class. And then after that, we use that to establish the tax rate based on how much each class is responsible for the levy.
Okay.
So that would be our base proportions item. It's required by Article 19 real property tax law. We have to file that with the state. We have to file it with your honorable body for approval. And then that sets up item number 4, which we're talking about, which would be in some cases, depending on the role and how much inequity is in the role, we have a tool that utilizes that we can adjust the base proportion. The law is really set in place to mitigate any shift in tax burden to the residential class, or in this case, the homestead class. A lot of urban areas where you see a lot of commercial businesses leaving the areas, there's no non-homestead class there to really, make up the tax base. And so that burden is now shifted to residential. So New York State came up with this law years ago, Article 19, which prevents that and allows the municipality to shift. And in the case of item number 4, it allows the municipality to go further and adjust the base proportion, which means put more burden onto another class, in this case, the commercial class. This year, the way the reassessment worked out, we were able to actually not make any adjustment. The tax levy and the distribution was actually quite equal. And obviously with the raise in value, our tax rates dropped dramatically for both classes.
So how does this impact us financially?
It's basically just a reporting item. Your levy is going to be your levy, so you have to raise 147,865,000, whatever it is, off the top of my head. But that's what's left over after all your revenues, all your grants and everything. The levy is what's left over to raise by tax. So the way the base proportion is just by law, the two classes have to be equalized, or not equalized, but they have to be proportioned to say who's going to collect more of the levy, who's responsible for what portion of the levy. And, back in 1991, when we set our base year, it creates this formula. And every year when New York State reports back to us, we plug those numbers into the formula, and it kind of caps on which class, in this case, homestead or non-homestead, is responsible for how much of that levy. So it has no impact on the city's financings because we have to raise the levy regardless. It just has more of an impact of who's paying that portion. In this case, in the base proportion, it's not a decision. It's more of just an analysis and a reporting mechanism. In the case of item number 4, which we're talking about now, if the city did exercise, to where we wanted to reduce the burden on residential any further, then we would exercise that to make sure it's more of an equal share. Is historically how we've done it. We don't want to burden one class versus the other. And in this case, the way the base proportions worked out, it came out pretty equal.
Any questions, colleagues? Councilmember Nowakowski?
Thank you, Commissioner Schell, for that. That was a really good analysis. I didn't write down fast enough what it was. I think you said for homestead, it was, what was the percent? 49?
49.
And then non-homestead, 51?
I'll actually give you, yeah, it's 50.91, but we'll just call it 51 for rounding purposes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Commissioner, when is this due?
Essentially, we report back. It probably should have been given to the state back in July. Obviously, it was a late item, and with recess, didn't feel like it should have made the emergency meeting or the special. But it's an analysis that the state pretty much gives us, and then we just report that we've adopted it. So it's because we didn't make any changes and it's more of a procedural item. We didn't push for it to be passed in the special session.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation. If no other further questions, motion to approve.
Motion is to approve.
Seconded by Councilmember Bowman.
Item number 5, approve current base proportions 2020.
This item is open.
Okay. We've already had the explanation on this item as well, so the motion is to approve as well.
Motion is to approve.
And this one is seconded by the majority leader.
Item number 6, 2020 to 2021 Juris subrecipient agreements.
This item is open.
Okay, this item is open. Anyone to talk about it? Anyone want to talk about it?
I have, you had asked for a breakdown by, I believe it was by council district.
Yes.
So I do not have all that information. We are still collecting that by council district on this. For you.
Okay.
We'll have that by, hopefully by tomorrow.
By tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, colleagues?
Thank you. I do.
Councilmember Guerrier?
Am I on?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chair. I did speak with Commissioner Brendan Mahaffey regarding this item. He's agreed to provide us the information. He's also agreed to meet with each respective council member to talk about the impact that the diverse funding streams have on each respective district. And we're going to take him up on it. Our staff is going to reach out to him. He's agreed to meet with us on Zoom to discuss this further. If I haven't reached out to you to let you know, that's what has transpired in our conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, motion to send without recommendation,
A motion is to send without rec.
seconded by Councilmember Noakowski.
Item number 7, approval of issuance and sale of VMHA's Capital Fund Housing Revenue Bonds 2020.
This item is open.
Okay, this item is open. Is Gillian on? Okay. Okay, I know Councilmember Bowman spoke to Gillian about this item. You want to just say briefly what it is about?
Sure. I'll just read off of the item 2. It kind of talks about this bond sale involves no cost or obligation to the city of Buffalo whatsoever. It's just part of HUD's approval process that the local municipalities sign off on it. And the funds through this program will go to improvements to our buildings. There's 5 different buildings listed, spanning throughout several districts. I had met with him at Monsignor Gary to address some of the some problems going on over there, which was a great meeting. But to this point, he did mention this does have some time significance. And so at that point, I'd like to move forward on it. I wish he was here to speak about it as well. I wish I had a little more information on it, but it does look like it's just a standard approval. And he shows in the resolution that we have done something like this as a standard approval previously.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. Motion to approve,
Motion is to approve.
seconded by Councilmember Bowman.
Item number 8, the city's COVID-19 related spending.
Item is open.
This item is open. Commissioner, you can speak on this? Commissioner,
Yes,
Okay.
we have on the COVID so far through our FEMA, for the first from March through June, we submitted a reimbursement and request for $2.1 million. And that's a combination of purchasing supplies, masks, gloves. We've purchased some foggers, we've purchased sanitizing liquid. And some of that is overtime because anybody who had been off sick, perhaps in police and fire, if they had COVID or were being quarantined, we brought somebody in to replace them that's eligible to be reimbursed. So for the first few months, we are asking for $2.1 million in reimbursement. And from June to current, we've spent approximately $800,000. And that is, majority of that is service and supplies as opposed to overtime.
so so the overtime numbers are included in those requests, correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we can break it down for you by, personnel and service and supplies.
Okay, so
And then we also are we've applied for and received some grants. We have an assistant to firefighters for PPE for the firefighters for $429,000. So their expenses will be covered up to that amount. We have a Department of Justice grant for the policemen, and that's going to be $713 for supplies for them. And then the Erie County had $1 million through the CARES Act for the covered COVID costs. So those total about $2 million right there.
So will we get a written document? Can we get a written document of those expenditures submitted to the
Yes.
council?
And how they're broken down.
Okay. Thank you so much for the info. Councilmember Rivera?
Thank you, Commissioner. The money that we're getting from the grants, is there a savings on the city side, money that we have previous budget? Did we actually budget for any of those things?
Yes, we did. So some of that will be covering what we've already budgeted. So we'll have a savings there.
So you have a savings. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? And Commissioner, when will you submit that document for us?
I'm hopefully submitting it by Thursday.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
No further questions. We can motion to table.
Motion to table that item.
Seconded by Councilmember Scanlon. Okay. Where there's no other business, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Councilmember Rivera. Thank you.